Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Big and Complicated Middleprise In-Building Opportunity webinar presented by Solid. This is the first webinar in a series of webinars offered by the Northeast DAS and Small Cell Association. Our goal is to provide educational and networking opportunities for the in-building wireless industry. Our next event is in Toronto, Ontario on Tuesday, September 29th. There are a few tickets left if you are able to join us. And our next webinar is November 12th at 2 p.m. It's titled HETNET, Virtualization Strategies for the Next Big Network Trend, presented by DASPEA, featuring RAN Plan. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to today's presenter. Mike Collado is Vice President of Marketing for Solid, where he leads the company's go-to market strategy, as well as market positioning, product launch, and thought leadership initiatives. Mike possesses over 17 years of marketing and business development experience at early stage and SMB technology companies that effectively captured mindshare and market share against larger incumbent brands and successfully exited through acquisition. Prior to his leadership role, Mike held management positions at a variety of global companies within the mobile communications, enterprise software, and .com industries. So Mike, take it away.
Thank you so very much. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to kick off the inaugural webinar series with Northeast DAS. We're a proud member of Northeast DAS, been a member for quite some time. Really appreciate the great work that your association does within the industry to elevate thought leadership. And so we're thrilled for the opportunity, and we'll seek to do our best today on a topic that we're really excited for the opportunity to present upon. As introduction, and again, thank you for the chance, and thanks for the warm introduction. Just to inform our audience of what Solid does, we're in the business of keeping people connected and safe in a rapidly changing world through a portfolio of RF amplifier, RF radio, and optical transport solutions. In colloquial terms, that means that we're a manufacturer of DAS, small cells, and front haul and back haul solutions. Some of our customers that we're proud to name would include the New York City Subway, the Daytona International Speedway, Ohio University, Duke University, the Ronald Reagan Building in DC, Parkland Hospital, Amazon headquarters, are just a smattering of some of the organizations that we serve. We're also enabling through our front haul solution in South Korea one of the world's first and largest cloud RAN deployments. The top slide, what a great time it is in the wireless industry. There are very large industry trends that are occurring. We've all attended these events that focus on things like the connected car and Internet of Things and software-defined networking, virtualization, big data, and 5G, which really offers the promise of fiber-like speed on wireless networks. And all of them are very large macro trends, but what we observe is that they actually manifest in a common challenge and problem, which is the data tsunami that we've talked about within the industry for quite some time. This is a common denominator that AT&T John Donovan blogged about earlier this year, is the need to meet the 100,000% increase in wireless traffic. All of this stuff is beginning to show up not only in the macro network, but in terms of the last mile, where we exist as people and inside buildings. The tsunami is going to impact us in different ways. For instance, the very large venues that we all have been very familiar with within the distributed antenna, the in-building network. There's the other segment, the middle-sized enterprise. There's the need for wireless connectivity. It shows up in our homes and apartments and small buildings. The challenge occurs in dense urban outdoor areas, and it also manifests in outdoor rural areas. There are two market segments that we believe the data tsunami and the challenge for coverage and capacity is really going to impact. One is the middle-sized enterprise, and one is the dense outdoor urban areas. We work that indoor accounts for between 70 to 80% of the total DAS market worldwide. Outdoors, at this point, really remains a niche market. This is according to research from our friends at Infinetics. However, and I think, looking at market opportunities, we observe that the blasting of RF through macro and high-powered DAS is probably efficient, and that increasingly the industry is going to look at using, plugging the holes, the gaps, the capacity requirements in dense urban areas in a little more of a clinical manner. But that market has not yet become a dire need to be addressed. This is kind of in contrast to South Asia, where we see that the market need is more about capacity. It's starting to show up in dense urban outdoor areas. But in the U.S. market, we've really not yet hit the capacity crunch in dense urban areas. And so for us, and as the thesis of today's discussion, it's really been about the middle-size market need. And we define the middle-size market, we give the name the Middleprise. And this is the space that exists between 1,000 to 500,000 square feet indoors. The types of buildings, it's hospitals, it's hotels, it's retail, it's office towers. This is the next frontier, in contrast to where the industry has generally focused its attention, the large venues like subways, airports, and stadiums. What Middleprise is very complicated is that based on the size of the building and what takes place inside the building is going to define many of the ways that we go about solving for it, including the technology that we're going to apply, the business models that are going to apply, other assets that may impact how we solve in that space. Notes before we move on about the Middleprise is that this is a big and unsolved or underserved market opportunity. According to some research from ABI, it is calculated that less than 2% of this Middleprise market segment has been penetrated globally. From a financial perspective, friends at Skyline Marketing, John Celentano, pegged the market opportunity at about $19 billion of market potential. What's in drilling into this graph a little bit further is that what's different from it, what differentiates the Middleprise from large venues is variety, the structure type. You have hundreds of years of architectural designs and building materials being deployed. It's going to depend on, as we had mentioned, who's in the building, what's going on inside the building. Is the building in use 24 hours a day, or like a hotel, or is it an office building that you've got a certain number of hours of the day where users are using coverage and capacity, and then the building kind of goes dark for the rest of the time. 4 key challenges for the Middleprise that we'll spend the bulk of our time today talking about, and they include challenges to the technology toolkit, the business models, in other words, funding and ownership. It's going to change the way that we design and deploy infrastructure within those buildings, and yes, public safety will be part of the challenge for us to overcome in the Middleprise. So one is that, in contrast to large venues, conventional DAS and small cell solutions don't apply for a variety of reasons. Part of these solutions designed for other market segments, if you reflect back upon the pyramid image that we were just looking at, large venues have traditionally been optimized and solved through distributed antenna systems. Other end of the spectrum, the smaller buildings that are 100,000 square feet and less have been solved or will be solved through small cells. This new middle-price market segment is going to be impacted by solutions that are priced at a certain cost per square foot. The total project cost per square foot is going to need to change. The needs of the middle price are generally similar in ways to the large venues and dissimilar to the smaller buildings in terms of being able to support multiple carriers or multiple services. And so the technology toolkit, in our opinion, must go through some evolutionary and revolutionary changes. We talk price. If we would agree that traditional or conventional in-building solutions are priced around $3 a square foot, that price point needs to come down significantly. I was at a Bixby panel yesterday where I suggested that price point probably is going to be somewhere around $1 for it to be successful. The solutions need to be flexible in their ability to support multiple services and multiple operators. That includes not only but also new frequency bands as technologies are rolled out. Solutions within the technology toolkit for the middle price to be intelligent. They need to, what I call, make the difficult things of in-building solutions become much easier. That is, to be able to design, deploy, commission, optimize, manage, and monitor the system much easier and more intelligent manner. To be able to move capacity to different parts of the facility in order to maximize the investment. See that a successful solution for the middle price is going to help converge multiple services. We've talked about this within the industry. The challenges of distributed antenna systems and small of the conventional variety are that they're single purpose. Can you leverage the networks in order to do more using the infrastructure? I'll talk about that in just a moment. And then lastly, a successful solution for the middle price is going to enable a repeatable process whereby we're able to design and deploy those networks in a much more efficient manner, leveraging the working knowledge of the IT staffs within the buildings or the trusted infrastructure integrator resources that these building owners use. Ultimately, a prediction within the middle price for the technology toolkit is that we've talked at these industry events and webinars about it's a toolkit approach. The reality is that for large buildings and small buildings, we've used DAS, we've used small cells. The middle price is that where we're going to need to use a toolkit approach. I like to use the example of the Anatole Hilton in Dallas. And if you've been there, you've got the guest rooms, you've got large atrium areas and convention and meeting rooms. And that's a very good example of perhaps a toolkit approach of deploying things like DAS for all of the guest rooms. Perhaps you're using Wi-Fi as a data overlay throughout the guest rooms and meeting areas. And then in those atriums and convention meeting rooms, you're using small cells to really fire capacity where the attendees are during times that those areas are in use. So we really think that the toolkit approach really is the first place it's going to apply is within the middle price. And this where we're going to see significant evolution is within the the business models of funding and ownership. And our observation is that the conventional carrier and neutral host third-party owner, the tower companies, those business models optimized for the large venue market probably won't translate well within the Middleprise. And here's why, and we've seen the headlines and comments. Certainly those of us in the industry understand the wireless operators have significantly pulled back some of the financing of in-building networks. Well, part of it is because the business models were limited shelf life. There's a limited number of dollars. Those are being invested in the high visibility markets of stadia and subways, where your bulk of your customers are going to be, and where if you don't coverage, it's highly noticed. The third-party owner models, business models, are generally optimized as well for large venues where you can generate revenue streams through advertisement. Those aren't necessarily going to work for the Middleprise. Carriers have declared they're not going to fund in-building models of a certain deployments in certain sizes. And we would observe that the third parties, the neutral hosts, are going to be challenged by attain the same ROI and achieve that ROI at the same time frame that they are optimized for the larger venues, which means basically that new stakeholder will emerge as going to fund and own these networks, and that's the venue owner, the building owner. There are benefits that the venue will be able to market and promote within the industry, and those include being able to increase property value. In other words, charging as if you're leasing a Class A office space, to be able to increase your cost per square foot. Able to, of course, attract tenants. Hospitals, as an example, by being able to deploy the best in-building technology, are going to be able to deploy or attract and retain the best physicians that want to come and run their practice using the tools that they're accustomed to give outstanding patient care to. Hotels as well, to be able to attract the travelers who demand connectivity and capacity in order to be productive on the road, and for that much, for in the same manner, families. Others for the building as a source to fund and own the network would include the ability to reduce tenant churn. You want to hold on to your tenants. It's much easier to retain, of course, than to attract. And this also gives the venue owner an opportunity to control their technology destiny. One is that venue owners face or have faced historically is dreaded rip and replace. It's very destructive to whatever is going on in the building, and particularly in a hospital environment. So I believe that the business model is going to change significantly, has to change significantly, and the building owner will be the starting role going forward within the Middleprise. The challenge of rip and replace, and this really directly impacts the design and infrastructure required in order to successfully support the Middleprise. And I had the chance to join some colleagues yesterday at the Bixby Fall Conference, and one of the observations is while we'd like to see a network that only gets deployed for the life of the building, not the life of the technology, which is a key distinction, is that the Middleprise is going to require flexible solutions that are able to support multiple service, but finding a way to leverage existing infrastructure and existing knowledge of the IT departments that support these buildings. And so what does that mean? We think that there are essentially three phases to the Middleprise market. There is the current market situation in which OEMs, the solutions that are available that would include DES and small cells and Wi-Fi, that those solutions will be deployed as they are with their pros and cons to be able to support the Middleprise. As newer technologies, newer innovative solutions that are more optimized to support the Middleprise space, and then more feature solutions that are complete fiber supported, fiber to the edge, in order to really converge the solutions. The point I'm trying to make is that in order to begin to tap in and address the needs within the Middleprise, the design and infrastructure is going to be a key consideration. Likely in the early phases, the current phase, and potentially going forward into the second phase that I outlined, likely leverage existing fiber risers, but leverage the existing and familiar coax and twisted pair. And so while the utopian goal will be that the infrastructure stays in place, which again is sort of the James Carlini model of the infrastructure survives the lifetime of the building as opposed to the lifetime of the technology. As we start moving out into the future and optimizing the solutions, that the head-end solutions and then the remote-end solutions will move more into that direction of an all-fiber network. But there still will be, in our opinion, a bit of a place going on in order to penetrate the Middleprise, leveraging some of the existing infrastructure. Again, some of the key characteristics of a successful solution within the design and infrastructure space is the flexibility to support multiple services, the intelligence, once again, to make the difficult things easy. Part of that is going to be self-defined and self-organizing networks that are able to better optimize the resources. Certainly, and this was one of the things that we talked about yesterday at Bixby, was using base station hoteling strategies. Many of these Middleprise facilities are either older and don't have a lot of head-end room space to house the equipment needed in order to deliver coverage and capacity inside the building. Hoteling does things. From a technology perspective, it houses the head-end gear in a common area that makes it very easy to manage and do future upgrades to the network and services. But it also has the ability to move this gear from a high-rent area to a building or a facility that is more cost-effective to really meet the business and total project cost per square foot requirements. Is that these networks will continue to evolve. They'll become smarter, ultimately more of a fiber-fed, all-fiber type of network. And then a topic that is going to become more interesting and more challenging for the Middleprise is the notion of critical communications. And this past summer, we published an e-book called The Imperative. And part of the thesis was that critical communications can happen in many buildings across the U.S. And what we're observing is that public safety, most folks look at public safety and immediately come to mind a fireman or a policeman or an emergency worker. Public safety is not only the first responders, the public safety traditional guys, but also the general public. In buildings, whether new and in some jurisdictions through renovation, fire and building codes are requiring that building owners are able to comply with certain code specifications. That would require that public radios that the responders are able to communicate inside the building. As for a second, talk about this new notion or new vantage point that public safety includes both general public and public safety. Part of it is, from a holistic perspective, the right thing to do to be able to enable you and I to be able to communicate. Some know that there's an emergency in the building or that we need help. And of course, for the public safety first responders to be able to communicate, including their own working groups with the building. Generally, you'll have not one, but multiple crews deployed within the building. And if there's a man down, those teams need to be able to communicate among each other. At any public safety could be seen as potentially a wild card. There's still kind of an area as public safety or fire and building codes are continuing to be updated. We're going into, in 2016 and 2017, respectively, code cycle years. We expect that in-building public safety communication requirement will be agenda, that it will be more stringent and more of a requirement. Certainly, in order for new construction to gain a certificate of occupancy, there will be a need for to enter public safety communications. This going to the burden, the responsibility to do this is going to rest upon the building owner. The challenge enabling public safety, some of it communications will be able to solve from the outdoors through the public safety network, as well as the commercial cellular for the general public. Some of it need to be enhanced through repeaters and DAS solutions. This opens up certain challenges that affect both technology and business as it relates to public safety for the building. What tech be deployed successfully in order to enable this, and funding approaches. Generally speaking, we see that the building owner will be responsible for funding not only the commercial cellular, but also the public safety. Mentioned public safety as a potential wild card. And what I mean by that is a prediction within the Middleprise is that public safety could be used as a way to remove obstacles. Commercial cellular, perhaps, operators look at cellular through either interference or as a liability concern that might slow down their desire to connect into a Middleprise building. Public safety, perhaps you solve for public safety first, that removes the obstacle. It could be a catalyst whereby you deploy the public safety, and that's the interest and receptiveness of the commercial cellular, the wireless operators, to deploy the commercial cellular DAS. As we get into the sort of summary and conclusions, and certainly want to provide an opportunity to open the floor for questions and comments, we would observe that the Middleprise represents a once-a-decade opportunity for new market leadership. And what I mean by that is that if you assume that the in-building market has existed, perhaps charted in 2000, 2001, or 2004, 2005, that time period, our has focused very diligently on the larger enterprises, the larger markets, the stadiums, the subways, the casinos, and airports. This is the first time in literally a decade, in our opinion, that the market has started to look at new market segments, this Middleprise segment. It is, once again, less than 2% penetrated. There is, at this point, no dominant leader within that marketplace. This is indeed an exciting time to be in the wireless industry, specifically the in-building space. It represents a once-in-a-decade opportunity for new market leadership. The Middleprise is going to challenge the technology toolkit. It's to actually empower us to bring a true toolkit approach that consists of DAS, small cell, and Wi-Fi-like solutions This is not going to be about products. This is going to be about systems and solutions in order to solve for it. It's going to be very complicated because based on the building size within the Middleprise and within what happens in the building, in other words, the vertical sense, is going to inform of what technology solutions are best appropriate to solve for it. The Middleprise is going to be solved from a technology standpoint in any sort of cookie-cutter fashion. It's going to be very specific to the unique characteristics of the building. Similarly, the Middleprise, as we discussed, is going to challenge business models. The traditional carrier and neutral host third-party owner tower company models, business models, really won't apply here. The carrier already signaled that they're not going to fund as aggressively as they have in the past with Middleprise, the enterprise segment, and it's going to challenge the optimized ROI and timeline for ROI models of the third-party owners. It's once going to challenge design and infrastructure in order to successfully get into the Middleprise, challenging the cost per square foot for the entire project. You may need to leverage existing and familiar infrastructure, fiber risers, coax, and twisted pair run. But in the future, in order to optimally solve for the Middleprise, we're going to probably get very all-fiber networks that will allow true convergence of RF and IP solutions. In other words, people do more on the network, so it's only just Wi-Fi and commercial cellular and public safety, but other stuff such as building automation, security cameras, location, things like that. The other one that we just finished talking about is, of course, public safety. The need for owners to comply with more stringent fire and building codes, and perhaps using public safety as a wild card in order to facilitate the advancement of in-building commercial cellular services. The owner is going to play a key role. See plenty of opportunity, and some of our discussions this very week, that the third-party owners, other stakeholders within the ecosystem are evolving their business models. Certainly the OEMs and other stakeholders on the technology side are evolving their solutions. We see the Middleprise really as this catalyst for significant evolution and revolutionary type of innovation. When do we see the Middleprise taking off? See that probably in the beginning to get low in the next 18 months or so. This is again a wide open opportunity. Going to require the tweaking of technology and business models, and so we're very excited about this space. At this time, Alyssa, before we go to close, I would suggest perhaps that for those on this call that are interested in getting more information, Sid has brought together some really smart people who have been able to talk and develop some video on our behalf about the Middleprise, about the technology toolkit, the business models, design infrastructure, and public safety. That can be found on our website. Also, I noted the Public Safety Imperative ebook developed this past summer, which does a deep dive into trying to demystify fire and building codes, NEDAS technology toolkit, and funding and ownership models, and what are some of the things needed to be able to solve for public safety. And oh, by the way, the new paradigm shift that public safety is indeed not just the public safety, the traditional fire and police masks, but also the general public. So let me please toss it back to you and invite questions from the audience.
So, just for sake of clarity on the call, I did mute everybody on the call, so if you can't speak, that's probably why. There is a little chat window in the lower right-hand corner. You can send the questions directly to everyone if you want to have that posted. I did send one out, or you could send one to me directly. I'm over at I'm Miller Public Relations. One of the questions that did come in is whose responsibility is it to adhere to public safety requirements?
Ultimately, we believe it's the building owner, and by the building owner, it's essentially the property management company. In order to gain the certificate of occupancy for new construction, it's incumbent upon the building owner to do that. The code requirements are informed and required by the AHJ, which is a program for the authority having the jurisdiction. One of the challenges, if I could just continue on that, one of the challenges with public safety is that codes are not universal. Literally, from municipality to municipality, the codes are likely different. Are informed by national fire codes. Pieces of the fire codes can be adopted into local jurisdictions, but to find out what you're on the hook for, what applies in any jurisdiction, you'd get to know the code of the authority having jurisdiction. But ultimately, in order to comply with that, it's the responsibility of the building owner.
Great. There was another question that somebody sent me in Skype. How do the Middleprise plan on presenting and then implementing in-building solutions to building owners?
Well, the building owner is going to have responsibilities thrust upon them. As we talked about earlier, the wireless operators and the third-party owners are unlikely to fund those on their own, with forms of potentially different, more creative business models. When I say the building owner is going to fund and own the network, it doesn't mean necessarily that they're going to own and fund the entire thing. There are creative business models that might vary, whereby simply the wireless carrier is going to pay their share, essentially fee to plug in to a network. But the building owner generally is going to rely upon their existing IT group or a trusted resource, generally a low voltage contractor or consultant, to solve for the requirement of in-building solutions and needs. These are the people that are deploying other services within their buildings, such as Wi-Fi. So generally, our opinion is that the building owner is going to play the key role in deciding what gets deployed. They'll turn to their IT or low voltage contractors to sort out what the solution is. We talked a little bit about what success probably is going to look like, and success, in our opinion, is going to look like lower total cost of ownership. There's a price point per square foot for the entire project where we think that's going to need to come in at. It's going to have flexibility characteristics to support multiple operators and services, the intelligence to make the difficult things easier, ultimately to be able to converge and support multiple services on the infrastructure, and then a repeatable process that makes it easier to deploy this in more buildings with less confusion.
I have another question here. The expected $19 billion market opportunity in Middleprise that you mentioned was very interesting. Do you have any idea of the market size of the public safety part of that $19 billion?
That's a great question. I'd answer it two ways. Yes and no. We would observe that there is a annual potential market opportunity for public safety, specifically within the Middleprise. That's a great question. I don't have data on that. Be good to capture the audience member who asked that question, that contact information. I could be glad to do research research and report back, but that's a great question. Generally speaking, for most in-building projects, 90% of building projects are commercial cellular, 10% are publicly related. Other nug share is that the technology that gets deployed to support public safety, the majority of the technology being deployed are repeaters and not distributed antenna systems.
Thank you. If there are no other questions, then I guess it's a wrap. Mike, you did a terrific job. Really appreciate your time. We do have one more question just came in. Sorry about that. Is the decrease from $3 per foot or $1 square foot target a realistic one?
Realistic one. It's one that will solve over time. It's not going to solve it in the next 12 months, in our opinion. But remember, that figure is assuming that it's a toolkit approach. There are potential small cell solutions or cell-like solutions that might fit the bill. There are DAS solutions that will ultimately, based upon new emerging architectures and strategies, be able to fit the bill. But it is a realistic number. It has to happen, in opinion, to fit the new business requirements and new business realities within the Middleprise.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Mike. This was very helpful, very informative. This webinar has been recorded and it will be available for replay within about 48 hours. If you're interested in any more information, don't hesitate to reach out to the NEDAS team. You can reach us at information or info@northeastdas.com. Certainly you can feel free to ask any questions directly to Mike Collado. His email is mike.collado@solid.com. Thanks so much and have a great day, everyone.